Okay, now we're going to talk about hepatic system. So we talked about cardio, respiratory, thermal regulation, and now hepatic. These are kind of the 4 areas that need to be regulated in order to sustain life outside of the womb. So the liver has an essential role in the metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, trace elements, and vitamins. The newborn liver slowly assumes the function that the placenta handled during fetal life. Within 3 months of age, all functions are fully active, including blood coagulation, iron storage, and carbohydrate metabolism. And the
Hold on, that's important. So within 3 months of age, the liver is fully functional.
conjunction of bilirubin. Glycogen reserves provide energy. They may become depleted if the metabolic needs of the newborn increase, such as what we just talked about during cold stress or respiratory stress. Iron storage. If the mom had adequate iron intake during her pregnancy, there's going to be sufficient iron stores in the newborn liver for the first 6 months of age. The newborn can also get iron from the destroyed red blood cells that occur during birth. Carb metabolism. When the placenta is gone, the maternal glucose supply is gone also. So initially the newborn's serum glucose levels will start to decline, and the newborns have to learn how to regulate their own blood glucose concentration and adjust to that intermittent feeding schedule instead of the continual feeding schedule. Most newborns have about 80% of the maternal blood glucose level at birth. Hypoglycemia is super common in newborns. You'll see it in the hospital in normal, healthy newborns, but it's even more common in babies whose moms had diabetes or gestational diabetes.
Okay, let me try to write this. Especially for a mom who has or gestational diabetes. Okay. So a heel stick blood sample versus a finger stick is used to assess a newborn's blood glucose level. I'm gonna say false. Incorrect. The correct answer is highlighted. Okay. So why do they have to do a heel stick blood sample? Ugh, that's gross. Okay.
Diabetes. It's also super common in our big babies, so our babies that weigh more than 8 pounds, 8 ounces. It's not uncommon because of that drop, that initial drop that the newborns get. It's not uncommon to see blood glucose levels around 40 to 50 during the first few hours after birth. And then the newborn will start to metabolize carbohydrates during their feedings.
Okay, glucose moves across the placenta. Is that true? I don't even know. Across the placenta? It's correct. Okay. Well, I mean, I know the placenta, but well,
There's
yeah,
okay, so there's jaundice is yellowing of the skin. You probably know that, but it's a sign of hyperbilirubinemia, and so there's 3 groups of jaundice, and it's based on the mechanism of the accumulation of the bilirubin. So hyperbilirubin means too much bilirubin, means we're accumulating too much bilirubin, and now there's 3 different reasons here of why that could happen. So overproduction, this could happen in blood incompatibility. We talked about ROGAM, we talked about the Rh positive and negative. So overproduction will happen if we have blood incompatibility. There's certain drugs that can increase overproduction of bilirubin, and if there's excessive trauma at birth, it was a traumatic birth.
That's another question. Okay, so let's see. Combs testing of newborns. So Combs test is routinely done on newborns who have a different blood types than their mothers. A positive test means that there has been some cross-contamination of the mother's and baby's blood, and the baby's red blood cells have the mother's antibodies attached to them, putting them at high risk of developing moderate to severe jaundice after birth. When a baby is Combs positive, their blood cells break down at a higher than usual rate due to the interaction of the 2 different blood types. Typically, the neonate just needs extra monitoring, and normal treatment of hyperbilirubinemia, UV light, increased feedings, and fluids.
Decreased conjugation. This is when there's not enough water-soluble bilirubin. So breastfeeding, we're not getting as much fluid coming out. So this can have an increased conjugation. Physiological jaundice, so that's just the congenital problem they were born with, or hypothyroidism. And then impaired excretion. This is when they're having difficulties getting the bilirubin out. So if there's a biliary obstruction, if there's sepsis, hepatitis, sometimes chromosomal abnormalities cause this. But too much bilirubin can cause seizures. It can cause brain damage in newborns. And so we want to kind of make sure that that is taken care of. So usually bilirubin is just excreted through feces. So that's kind of it. So if we can't excrete it, or if we're not getting enough intake to cause an excretion, then that's going to cause our hyperbilirubinemia.
Okay, so I kind of want to go over the hepatic system function again with the 3 groups of jaundice and based on the mechanisms. So the hepatic system function in simple terms. So the liver in newborns is still maturing, so some of its jobs aren't working at full capacity yet. So here's what it's supposed to do. So iron storage. At birth, babies have iron stores that come from their mom, mostly transferred in the 3rd trimester. At birth, in the 3rd trimester, these stores help meet the baby's needs for the first 4 to 6 months of life, important since breast milk is low in iron. So is the other one, so you have to, anyway, so carbohydrate metabolism. So the liver helps regulate blood sugar. After birth, babies no longer get constant glucose from the placenta. So their liver kicks into release stored glycogen, because I remember that now. It stores glycogen for later. So the liver kicks into release stored glycogen and maintaining blood glucose levels. If this system isn't fully ready yet, babies are at risk for hypoglycemia. And she was talking about how it is very common for babies to have hypoglycemia. Apparently you need to do a heel stick, which is like, have you ever seen a heel stick before? Oh my God. So bilirubin conjugate. So the liver conjugates bilirubin, which means it transforms it from fat soluble to water soluble, so it can be excreted into urine or stool. I did not know that. So in newborns, this process can be immature, which leads to jaundice. So the liver conjugates bilirubin, which means it transforms it from because it's fat soluble to water soluble, so it can be excreted in the urine or stool. So there are 3 types of mechanisms of jaundice in newborns. So we can have an overproduction. Too much bilirubin is being made from breakdown of fetal red blood cells. So example would be like hemolytic disease of the newborn. Decreased conjugation. So liver isn't mature enough to process all the bilirubin. So that would be like an example of physiological jaundice, which is super common. And then impaired excretion. So even if bilirubin is conjugated, it doesn't get excreted properly. So can be due to bile duct blockage or metabolic issues. The baby that you were taking care of that was like 4 months old, there was an impairment with their, with that. So why is jaundice so common in babies? The liver is still learning to process and clear bilirubin. Combine that with high turnover of red blood cells and you get bilirubin. So she was talking about how I believe the turnover for babies, the red blood cells, is 100 days. And then for adults, it's like 120. So give me some. What is the difference between the, oh my God, red blood cell turnover with infants, and adults. She was saying infants about like 100 days. Oh. And the reason why it says on here was because it's higher RBC count at birth because fetal life needs more oxygen carrying capacity, but it's a more rapid turnover RBCs. There's a higher level of fetal hemoglobin or HbF, fetal hemoglobin. This type of hemoglobin holds onto oxygen tighter, good in the womb, but it breaks down after birth as the baby switches to adult hemoglobin or HbA. All of this leads to more bilirubin production as the body breaks down those extra short-lived RBCs. So with an adult, it was 120, so longer RBC lifespan, 120 days, and lower RBC turnover. Yeah. Okay. So let's go on to the next part.